Did you know that Caesars were inspired by my claws?
Oh gosh, that's true. I believe it.
Koch Media, and yes, that's how you say it. Koch Media was
Koch Media.
Koch Media. I'm so sorry. Koch Media was nice enough to send us a review copy of Clever Beans' new game, Gods Will Fall, for the Nintendo Switch. That being said...
playing with the toy.
Really? We had that thing for 2 years and now you play with it? Now you... Polymedia.
I don't know why I'm here. I'm gonna make it worse.
That's kind of the point.
Serious journalism.
Journalisms. Koch Media was nice enough to send us a review copy of Clever Beans' new game, Gods Will Fall. In this case, to send us a copy of the Nintendo Switch version. That being said... Seriously? That being said, if you have the choice, don't buy the Switch version. The frame rate drops to the low teens at times. There are 3 more gods to be added with DLC over the next few months. The game is fully released, but its ending is currently quite disappointing. So Gods Will Fall is going to be the second title for the Wishlist, a game you shouldn't buy yet, but you should go wishlist on your preferred platform right now. Gods Will Fall is an elegantly designed, kind of boss rush, kind of roguelike kind of thing, and it's very much unlike anything I've ever played before. In a world where the gods have gone too far, demanding constant sacrifice, tens of thousands of Celtic warriors embark on a quest to kill your gods. Wait, no, that's a different game about eating the rich. It's a really popular subject matter recently. Go figure. Wonder why. Let me just get this out of the way. Gods Will Fall is not a perfect game. It's actually quite flawed, but what it does well, it does extremely well. So keep that in mind as I tell you why you should not overlook this one. Unfortunately for the heroic hordes, their ships get promptly torn apart by the stormy seas as the gods defend their island. Only 8 warriors make it to the shores, but they're ready to rip the big guys a new one. Hey boy, not again. No, down. Gods Will Fall is split into 2 gameplay phases. Navigate the overworld, the aforementioned island, which is just a pretty, rather slow level select. The distances from one realm to the next will probably eat up half a minute each. To me personally, this added a welcome level of deliberation and weight to my choices. Choosing my next opponent felt like a miniature version of the trip the heroes took in the opening cutscene. You assume direct control of one of the warriors while the others follow you around. There's no indicator as to whom you actually steer, so you might over or undershoot turns and obstacles if you're looking at the wrong Celt. This is a very minor issue, but it did throw me off a couple of times. Once you have arrived at the gateway of one of the gods' realms, which can be tackled in any order, it is time to choose which warrior will enter the portal. I'm not entirely sure whether characters are randomly generated or if there's just a large pool of pre-made Celts, but I haven't come across any duplicates in my total of 5 playthroughs. Every one of them is defined by their stats, weapon, and backstory. Stats are straightforward. Vigor is health, strength is a flat damage increase, and speed determines movement speed. The weapon type determines the moveset. Every weapon comes with a light attack combo and a heavy attack. Each weapon type has its strengths and weaknesses. Axes and maces share the same moveset, but maces deal double damage to armor, while axes are devastating when brought down on a prone target. Swords have short range, but their quick horizontal slashes are incredibly useful when facing multiple opponents. Twin axes struggle to stagger enemies, but you can interrupt your fast attacks by dodging if things get hairy. Spears are surprisingly versatile. Their heavy attack is a long-range stab, while their light attack is a quick series of pummels with the blunt end. The kinds of weapon a warrior can equip depend on their body type. There's no tutorial on what each type does, so what follows is my best understanding as to how the system works. Heroes are divided into skinny, buff, and sexy. Skinny Celts start with lower vigor and higher speed. They can't equip war axes nor war maces. Buff Celts have low vigor and speed and can only wield one-handed weapons, but they are most likely to gain strength over time. Sexy Celts have higher vigor and low speed. They can't use spears nor twin weapons, but their two-handed axes and maces pack a punch. After completing a realm, there's a chance to loot some higher value weapons. Those are stronger. I don't think I need to explain this any more than that. Every hero, regardless of whether they participated in the slaying of a god, has a chance to receive a permanent stat boost or passive skill with each portal crumbling. Every warrior has a backstory that may gradually reveal itself throughout the adventure, depending on your choices and certain events. Those moments will always affect a character's stats in some way, and while they are simplistic in nature, they add a neat twist to both story and gameplay. Let's call the example Celt Helga. Why not? When approaching Belenus's lair, she recalls the nightmares that have been plaguing her for years, of the horrors that lie beyond this door. If you choose her to face the sun god and his minions, killing a number of enemies will strengthen her resolve. In all of her dreams she was torn apart, but not this time. Covered in the blood of her foes, she knows this will be different. Aside from being a neat character moment, this also increases Helga's strength and vigor. There are no traditional level ups in God's Will Fall, so learning how to act in light of a hero's backstory is absolutely critical if you are to make it to the end. The story beats are not all positive though. Certain events, such as the loss of a friend or injury sustained in combat, may temporarily weaken a hero. My personal favorite event occurs when a warrior manages to kill a god without too much trouble. They're going to want to go again right away. The heart is pounding, the adrenaline is pumping through their body, and they are angry. This means their vigor is reduced, but their attack damage shoots through the roof. Let one of your guys get trapped in a dungeon. They may have been best friends with another party member who is now determined to free their buddy. Do you send them in? Yes, they'd have a unique buff for this quest, but are they strong enough? Are their weapon and skill set a good fit for the job? Deciding who to send when will make all the difference. And if you lose all warriors, it's game over. Yeah, you can actually lose entirely, with your dead save file left behind as a reminder. I love this management aspect of God's Will Fall. It's simultaneously simple, yet also offering plenty of room to experiment and explore. The same level of elegance applies to the dungeons and bosses. Once a hero has entered a realm, there is no turning back. They either win, get captured, or die.
Ain't that just the way?
Yeah, that's c'est la vie. You walk, sprint, dodge, and jump through what is mostly a series of combat gauntlets with a god at the end. In battle, use light and heavy attacks as well as a kick and a devastating ground smash. Oh no, what did I say? Cake?
Didn't you say cake?
Kick! I said kick!
You said cake.
Not light, heavy attacks and cream pies that you can use to stun enemies.
Oh no, Bennet. You said cake and devastating ground something.
Ground pound cake.
You said cake.
I said kick.
You said cake, trust me.
Jesus.
I'm so hungry.
Ugh.
Sorry, I could have sworn you said
I said kick. Oh, you know, it was Dave's birthday and I made him a cake. I'm trying to understand how you...
It sounded like you said cake.
The dodge grants brief invincibility. The timing is actually quite tricky and there's a lot of frame data for you to learn. If you dodge towards an enemy just as you are about to be hit, you parry and stun them. Plus, you get a chance to throw human-sized enemies quite far. It's genuinely hilarious to launch a fool off a cliff. It never gets old. Combat against ordinary enemies is functional, though not exceptional in any real way. The zombie-like vassals are shared among all realms, albeit with cosmetic differences. They blindly swing at you, and you just have to wait for them to whiff an attack before you can stun-lock them out of existence. Higher difficulty dungeons will also feature creatures such as weird Stygian crabs or minotaurs. These are far tougher and tend to strike faster, hit harder, and cover a larger area with their attacks. They are unique to each god's realm, and I won't spoil them beyond that. They add some much needed variety to combat encounters since you are likely to master battling vassals fairly quickly. When attacking and parrying, you build up Bloodlust. Since everyone in your party is a badass, they heal by screaming very loudly. Bloodlust is represented by a darker shade of red filling up the empty gems of your vigor bar. I could go for a vigor bar.
Me too.
I like some cashews and raspberries.
Bloodlust just sounds delicious.
Bloodlust, yeah. Hitting the fan will make an obnoxiously loud sound that will interrupt you. Hitting the roar button will restore health for every full segment. Healing more than one pip will have additional effects, like a brief attack power increase or becoming unstoppable, whatever that means. I especially love that more powerful battle cries aren't just louder, but will interrupt enemy attacks as they recoil in terror. It's wonderful stuff. The higher your bloodlust, the faster you gain more, but you lose some whenever you take damage, and slowly over time while out of combat. This creates an excellent feeling of constant momentum. Ideally, you want to heal before a fight instead of after, to make use of the attack buff. The more damaged you are at the end of a battle, the more bloodlust you have potentially built up, and the faster you make it to the next encounter, the more of it you preserve. The bloodlust mechanic is excellent. It pushes players to keep moving and fighting and rewards risky strategies in a high-stakes environment. There are two more systems that seem basic but are used cleverly here. You can pick up enemy weapons, which will break after some usage. A character's moveset is entirely determined by their weapon. Leon! No, leave the fan alone! You can pick up enemy weapons, which will break after some usage. A character's moveset is entirely determined by their weapon, so this allows them to temporarily change fighting styles to fit different situations, such as switching from a spear to a sword when dealing with groups of enemies. Even if you're happy with your current weapon, you can always pick up a fallen foe's gear to throw it at the next guy, weakening them before the fight. It's a simple mechanic, but serves as a constant source of small choices for the player to make. In each dungeon, you'll find a selection of consumable items, such as shields, bombs, and power-ups. Where exactly these are hidden is random, but you will always have an idea as to which items you'll find in which realm. On your way to face the gluttonous Ogmius, you're likely to pick up some meal scraps, which can be used to restore vigor when in a tight spot. Any consumables you don't consume will be added to the party's inventory after a successful run and can be brought along to other dungeons. There are plenty of items found in one realm that are infinitely more useful against a different god. Learning which gods you struggle with will help you figure out what gear you'll want to bring over from elsewhere. However, this is complicated by two factors. For one, if Leon is in the background, he will constantly interrupt your recording by playing with an entire scratching tree as if it was a doll. What are you doing, you giant boy? For one, if you beat a realm, you can't revisit it. And you can't just enter and then leave either. So play every level once across 2 save files or 3, and then you know what order to face the gods in, right? Nope. I should stop asking myself questions. I'm so bad at nope.
Nope.
Nope. Yes. There will always be 2 easy ones that should be a breeze for a fresh warrior, but finding them is the tricky part. In order to find out how hard a realm is, you'll have to commit someone to scout it out. If they are knocked out, you can only get them back by beating the boss. If they die, say by getting crushed or by a particularly vicious enemy attack, well, they're obviously lost forever. The easiest way to tell how challenging a dungeon will be is to look at the boss's health bar, always visible at the top right corner. If all of their HP fit into one line, you found an easy one. The stronger the enemies in a dungeon, the more powerful the god. In a quite brilliant bit of design and storytelling, killing the vassals and creatures in a realm will damage the god before you even reach them. This allows players to make a choice. Rush through the level and avoid combat to make it to the boss quickly, or methodically explore and exterminate everything you meet to weaken the god. If a realm you explore proves too rough, you might have to leave the imprisoned warrior behind and return when your heroes are a little more heroic. Every god in their realm have some kind of gimmick, and I don't want to spoil too much. Again, experimentation and discovery are huge selling points for this title. You'll find bits of lore narrated in a made-up language that sounds pretty epic, scattered about pretty much everywhere, but you won't find it all in one playthrough. These will occasionally hint at ways to make the upcoming boss battle easier without outright telling you what to do. If you see something that stands out, check it out and see what happens. For science, and due to years of Fire Emblem conditioning, I discovered that closing the game while a warrior is in a dungeon will cause them to be captured regardless. You can, however, quit outright as a hero dies, so they are considered imprisoned instead. Some safe scumming is possible, at least. And if anyone at Cleverbeans is watching this and fixes this exploit, I demand an apology in the patch notes. So overall, Goswell Fall is a cleverly designed game using grounded, easily understood mechanics to great effect. It is also quite flawed, occasionally failing at incredibly basic aspects. The camera is entirely automatic, which often leads to terrible visibility when moving towards the screen, or when there are unnecessary pillars blocking the view. There have been far too many situations in which attackers were entirely obscured by the game world. Hit detection is a mixed bag, especially when attacking a target at a different elevation. Spears in particular will often miss or hit where they really shouldn't have. Enemies will often get stuck on stairs or hover over an abyss instead of falling down. Before a recent patch, any bodies and weapons on a moving platform wouldn't move alongside it and just kinda slide away. You can still get them to do the popcorn dance on this elevator though. The actual play area is poorly defined, with invisible walls blocking off areas that should be reachable with a jump. Other times what looks like a path ahead is an instant knockout instead. Also, you can do this. I don't know what this is, but I figured I should mention it. The way the game is currently structured, the credits roll as soon as you kill the 10th god. On my first successful run, the last boss I faced just happened to be one of the two easy ones. So after a super tense quest that could have ended with just a few mistakes, I readied my strongest warrior, her sword forged in a god's own embers, only for her to kill what was effectively the final boss in 6 seconds. Hopefully the expansions will fix this underwhelming finale. We'll see. Despite its issues, I adore Goswell Fall, and I've already replayed it several times since work on this video has started. After a few patches and once all DLC is out, it absolutely has the potential to be an all-around indie darling. If you think this game looks neat but a little too pricey for what it is, you should definitely add it to your wishlist and wait for a sale. And hey, thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like and subscribe. Follow HGC and Bennet Games over on Twitter, and stay tuned for more. Goodbye.
See you later, gamers.
There you go, there it is.